We've got Steve in Pittsburgh. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, hi. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I guess I could talk about a wide range of things. I used to be agnostic. I'm actually now interested in becoming a priest.
Okay.
I guess my first topic I was thinking about was near-death experiences.
Yeah. It also says here that you saw a demon.
Oh yeah, I did.
How do you know?
It's hard to explain. It's just like you experience it, and it's just like very overwhelming. Like I felt like this overwhelming energy. It was like terrifying looking.
Okay, so first of all, it says here you saw a demon. Did you actually see something? Because now you're just talking about how you felt.
Yeah, no, it was black and red. It was about like 6 feet tall.
Okay. How did you determine that what you saw was a demon?
I guess I don't know for a fact, but it seems like that's the thing that makes the most sense.
Okay, how can that be the thing that makes the most sense? I mean, if you've seen something, you've witnessed something, and you're trying to figure out what it is, what we have to do then is go through the known possible explanations and figure out which one of them is most plausible. Now, I don't know that, I have no reason to think that demons actually exist. I don't know exactly what you saw, but I don't know how you concluded that the most reasonable explanation for what you witnessed is that it was in fact a demon.
Well, I mean, I don't know what else to conclude. I mean, it's what it looked like.
See, that's a fallacy. That is I can't think of anything better, and so this is the best explanation. That's a fallacy, which is sometimes labeled argument from ignorance and sometimes argument from personal incredulity. But the fact that you can't think of any better explanation than demon is kind of like, we've come across a murdered body, and I can't think of anyone more likely to have done it than the butler. So you need something more than just, I can't think of anything better in order to say that this was what I saw.
I mean, that was one out of many experiences I've had, so I don't know. It's just the number of experiences for me has convinced me of...
Do you see supernatural things often?
What?
Do you see supernatural things often?
I've had a number of supernatural experiences.
How did you know they're supernatural?
Yeah, how do you know that? How do you come to that conclusion?
Well, I mean, okay, for example, you see a book slide off a table.
I've seen books slide off the table.
No rational explanation for it.
So I've seen books slide off the table. I've never I've never had reason to conclude that it was supernaturally caused.
So what did you think caused it?
Well, sometimes you don't know.
Sometimes you don't know what the explanation is, but I'm not asserting to know the explanation for any of it. You're the one who's claiming that the most reasonable explanation is that something supernatural did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there's another guy waiting to call, so I'm kind of melding this call with another one. So I appreciate the fact that we're actually able to discuss this. But the thing is, if you mentioned when we got to this point where you couldn't give a good reason for why you thought it was a demon, that you had a whole bunch of supernatural experiences. And my point is that I don't know how you determined that any of them were supernatural, but having a whole bunch of experiences where you committed the same fallacy to reach the conclusion, the plural of anecdote is not evidence. And if you have flawed reasoning that's leading you to the same conclusion over and over and over again, that's not an accumulation of evidence, that's an accumulation of ignorance.
Okay, well, I mean, I guess I can't prove it to you until you actually experience it yourself. But
well, the thing is, I'm not saying that you should be able to necessarily prove it to me. I'm baffled as to how you proved it to yourself. I mean, that to me would be the more troubling thing, because if I experienced, let's say, similar things to you, and I came to the conclusion that they were supernatural, I would want to have a good reason. I would need to have a good reason to reach that conclusion, and you seem to not care about having good reasons.
Not that I don't care. It's just that, I mean, sometimes you can experience something. You just I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It's
Wouldn't it be better?
Okay. It's the term like seeing is believing, you know?
But okay,
Like that's
so I've been a magician. I've been a magician since I was about 5. Saying seeing is believing to me is an admission of joyous gullibility. Because I just did, before the show, I just read somebody's mind in here in a most impossible or unlikely fashion, and they all saw it. Now, are they justified in believing that I'm actually psychic and can read their mind?
I don't know.
Well, there you go.
That's the first time you've used the I don't know answer. Why don't you use that for the other things that you claim to?
No, I mean, hey, okay, I admit, I don't know. Like, I can't, like, I don't know, like, a lot of things. So I can't prove it. It's just like, yeah, it's my belief, you know, because it's what I've experienced.
So in other words, for you, it's not seeing as believing, it's believing as seeing. Because you already believed that these things are real, and then you saw something that you couldn't explain, and you decided that's...
Well, I always thought that they might be real, but I never, like, believed that they were real.
Okay, why would you think they might be real?
Well, I mean, because other people said they experienced, like, the same things.
Okay,
So in other words,
so there are people who claim
like,
that...
you watch, like, Ghost Hunters,
Steve,
and...
yes,
you know,
that's all
they
crap.
show that they catch things on camera. And, like, you know,
No, they don't.
No, they actually don't, Steve. They're engaged in the same crap. So there are people who claim that they've been abducted by aliens. Do you believe them?
I believe that there's the possibility. I'm open-minded.
So am I. But I'm open-minded to actual evidence. You don't just believe a claim because a bunch of people have made it, or it seems to be made pretty frequently. The number of people who believe something has no impact on whether or not it's true or likely true. And I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. You don't seem to care. You don't seem to care whether or not your beliefs are true, because the
what makes you think I don't care whether they're true? Of course, I care whether they're true.
Okay,
I something that I thought was a demon. I want to know if it's true or not.
Steve, when I was just running through the methodology by which we would determine what a reasonable explanation is. When we went through all that, you acknowledged that you don't know what the explanation is, but you believe it anyway. That is a demonstration of someone who, whether you think you do or not, clearly does not care whether or not their beliefs are true. Because if you cared, then you couldn't possibly believe this until it had been demonstrated to be the case.
I mean, I don't know what demons are. You know, like you're saying I give an explanation, but like I don't know what demons are. Like I don't know.
Well, if you don't know what demons, Steve, if you don't,
it's like a term for like I don't know.
Steve,
like, I don't know.
Steve, if you don't know what demons are, how could you possibly ever conclude that a demon was the most likely explanation for what you saw if you don't even know what demons are?
Well, I guess I'm saying what I saw correlated to what other people call demons.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I have no objection to somebody saying that what I experienced correlates to what other people are saying is a demon.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So, do you want to talk about other things, or?
Well, you had a question about near-death experiences, so I figured we'd hit that real quick before we went on to another caller.
You know, after I had this experience, you know, I got interested in, like, you know, I started reading about, like, near-death experiences, and, like, I don't know, they're just very interesting, like, the way that they all correlate to, like, you know, the same things, and, like, there's, you know,
but they don't.
Like, seeing things in other rooms that, like, other people later confirm.
So they don't actually all correlate. Yeah. It's not like everybody who comes...
A lot of them do, yeah.
Yeah, sure, a lot of them do, and that's why I brought up the UFO stories. A lot of those have striking correlations. Why do you think the UFO stories have a lot of similarities from person to person?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either, but do you think it's more likely it's because they're true, or because these stories have entered popular culture and are therefore influencing what people, how they're likely to recount things and how they're likely to view their memories?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't either, but I think that something we know to be the case, which is the intrinsically flawed eyewitness testimony, you know, that people are horrible eyewitnesses and that people are easily influenced. So when we hear these stories about aliens, aliens used to take on all different kind of forms, which is why in the early days of science fiction movies, you've got the blob and the robot monsters and all this other stuff. And then shortly after 2001, after Close Encounters of the Third Kind, all of a sudden we see a massive shift towards smaller grays with almond eyes and big heads. And this becomes kind of the standard of what people are reporting. Is it more likely that those are the aliens that in fact are visiting these people, or that what people are seeing has been influenced by popular culture, and now that that's so popular, it's what we're likely to hear more about?
I don't know. I guess, I'm not sure.
I love that. I wish you would have said, I don't know, far more often with regard to the other things that you kind of went ahead and accepted an explanation for. So when you talk about near-death experiences, first of all, there's a reason the N-word is there, the near part, not the N-word, but near death, that we're not actually talking about death. And then
there's definitely a lot of them where people were dead for a long time.
Okay, so dead is dead.
Yeah.
It's not like
there was one guy who was dead for like 40 days or something ridiculous.
Okay, that's
no.
So if you
don't
can
come back
find
from being
anybody
dead
who
for
was
40
pronounced
days.
dead and was dead for 40 days, and that this was confirmed, and then they came back to life, now we've got something entirely different to discuss, because either you misread something, you're making it up, or someone.
It was a really long time. I'm not sure if it was 40 days, but it was a really long time. I'm sure you can find it if you look online.
So
it's out there somewhere.
So if you're telling me that if I go look online, I'm likely to find a story about someone who is dead for a long time, maybe as much as 40 days, but not necessarily. Do you know what other stories I can find online?
I mean, I think he was like frozen. If I remember, I'm not sure. He was like really cool.
Okay, we're going to move on now, Steve. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any story you can't find online?
I'm pretty sure I can find a story about somebody who was anally probed by UFOs and maybe died for 40 days and came back, and they implanted him with something.
You watch. If our show gets popular enough,
Yeah.
the alien abduction scenarios will now include ham sandwiches injected in.
That's right.